Hi everyone, how are you all doing? I hope you're well. So today's video is a highly requested one, surprisingly. A lot of you, since I posted my last two videos announcing I've had my baby, have asked me if I would film a labor and delivery story, as well as on Instagram getting so many DMs asking me if I'd film one. And I thought, why not share my story, because it might help some of you guys who are currently expecting or who are due to pop anytime soon. So if this helps you, then great. Get yourself a nice hot drink, I don't know, whatever your choice of beverage. I've got cold icy water. I'm gonna get a cushion, right, because it's just comfy, isn't it, when you've got something to like lean on. Okay, I'm trying to get comfortable so you guys get comfortable as well. So it all started with a routine midwife checkup at 37 weeks, where they usually just check your urine sample, blood pressure. What else do they do? They measure the baby to see if they are measuring on chart. What else? And to make sure that the baby is growing nicely, and they listen to the baby's heartbeat to make sure that everything's spot on. So every time you go to the routine midwife checkup, they do the exact same thing and they chart it down, and the chart basically is going up, and they want it to go up on the points exactly, not lower, just go up. So basically when she measured my tummy, it was coming up a bit lower, so everything was absolutely fine apart from when she measured my stomach, which in general, when you look at my stomach, it didn't look like it was 8 months pregnant. It just looked like I was 3 months pregnant or had a big burger. And it was exactly the same when I was pregnant with Malik as well. So that's just me in general. But anyway, the lady measured it and it was measuring low on the charts. So she said to me that she was gonna call the hospital and get me a scan just to be on the safe side, which she had done before, but this was a lot earlier in the pregnancy. It was probably at my first or second midwife checkup that she called up the hospital to get a scan. But when I went to the scan, because the internal scan is a lot more accurate than the external, which is just measuring the size of the bump, it showed that the baby was absolutely fine, perfect measurement, and it was bang on line, whereas the stomach measurement showed it was a bit lower, which is understandable because you can't rely on a measurement of the stomach to measure how much the baby weighs, you know. So this time I was a lot further on, so she got me an appointment. I wasn't worried. I was a lot more worried the first time than I was this time, because I thought, oh, I've had this scan appointment before and they told me everything was fine, so they'll tell me the exact same thing, right? Wrong. I went to my scan the next day. They usually get you an emergency one to, you know, just make sure everything is good, which the hospital are amazing for, by the way. So I went to the scan appointment the next day. So the lady scanned my stomach and everything. She took all the measurements down, and then she told me to wait in the waiting room and wait to see a midwife. So one of the midwives came up to me eventually and said to me that they can't give me the results, that I'd have to wait for a doctor to give me the results. Now at this point I was like, uh-oh. So many things were just like going up in my mind. I was like, okay, but the doctors won't be in for another hour, so they're not due to start until an hour. And at this point I'd already been there for 45 minutes, and I was just trying to process all of this, and I didn't even ask her why I can't get the results through the midwife, so I have to wait for the doctor. I was eventually seen by the doctor and she gave me the results, and she was like, well, the reason why you had to wait to see me is because the baby is measuring a lot less for how far along you are. At this point I only had 2 weeks left, or is it 3 weeks left until my due date, which was 40 weeks, right? So it was 37 weeks, I believe. And I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, she said a lot of things that just went in and out of my head. And then she said that the best thing to do would be to book an induction and for me to be induced, because so the part of the baby that was measuring lower is her stomach, and they were saying to me that when the placenta isn't functioning as well as it should do, the first part of the baby's body that starts to decrease in weight is the stomach. She was saying, based on that, I would recommend, in my expert opinion, for you to have an induction. However, it is up to you, but that is what we would recommend. Now, doctors don't just go off recommending stuff. For me, I wasn't that scared or that worried about being induced, because I was already induced the first time with Malik. I was like, yeah, that's fine, let's do it. And then she said to me, how about tomorrow? I was like, excuse me, lady, I'm just 37 weeks. I was like, no, not tomorrow. I don't mind having induction as long as I wait until my due date. I don't want to get induced 3 weeks before my due date. So she was like, that's fine. How about on your due date? I don't know why I wanted to wait, because at 37 weeks you're full term already. But I just wanted to give my body the chance to go into labor naturally. She booked the induction on my due date. So my induction day was on my due date, which was on the 25th of August. So my appointment was at 10 a.m. I went in at 10:15 and the midwife didn't come to induce me until 5 p.m. Yep, from 10:15 all the way till 5 p.m. you best believe. But I wasn't that bothered, even though I should have been. But then again, I was in my own room and I was happy about that. I took a lot of time to just catch up on sleep, because the night before I couldn't sleep at all. So I slept a lot until 4 o'clock, I think, and then the midwife came. Let me quickly tell you guys a little bit about being induced, because I had been induced once before, okay, which went perfectly, but this time downhill, literally. The worst experience ever. Anyway, so the whole purpose of induction is so they can bring on your contractions, so you can dilate, so you can go into labor. So what they do is they give you a pessary, they put it inside of you, which is supposed to help you dilate, soften the cervix, open it up, right? So they give you that, and then 6 hours later they check you. If you haven't dilated, I don't know how much, but then they give you another one. But before they give you another one, they have to check, make sure the baby's okay. So they monitor the baby for a bit to make sure the baby's coping well with the contractions, and then they give you a third one, and then if that doesn't work, then they put a drip, which is more aggressive. The first thing that they do is make sure baby's all right. So they monitor the baby's heart rate for about 40 minutes, 20 minutes to 40 minutes. So what happened was, at 5 o'clock they put the first pessary in, and then they told me to get up and about, go walk, and then in 6 hours time they're gonna come and check to see how much I've dilated. So after they put the first one in, which by the way isn't horrific, but then again that could differ between each individual and your mental state, and how tense you are and how scared you are. So don't be scared, it really doesn't hurt at all. It just feels like it does when you're being checked how many centimeters you're dilated. Then my cousin came around, we went for a walk all around the hospital. My husband came and brought me food. We went into McDonald's, and then I came back after an hour of walking around, ate some food and just chilled really, had some desserts. They were supposed to come and check me around 11 o'clock, but nobody came until 12 o'clock. So when they came to check me eventually at 12 o'clock, 12 a.m, they said I was 2 centimeters. I was like, what on earth did you just say? She was like, you're just 2 centimeters. I was like, oh my god. At this point, guys, I was in so much pain, and the pain was all around my pelvic area. Now, when I was induced with Malik, the pain, it was painful, but it was all around my back, which it felt like a period pain. This did not feel like period pain. It felt like period pain times 1,000, okay? And I could hardly walk, and I was only 2 centimeters. I was like, what? So then, before they give you the second pessary, they have to monitor the baby again for about 20 minutes to make sure the baby's coping well with the contractions that you're currently having, before they give you anything else, another drug, because it is technically a drug, which could aggravate the baby. So the second time around, when they were monitoring the baby, they had me on it for about an hour and a half, believe it or not, from 20 minutes to an hour and a half. The midwife comes back in and she's like, the baby's heart rate keeps dipping, so I can't actually give you the second pessary. I have to get a doctor to have a look at this before we do anything else. So at this point I was a little bit worried, because I was only 2 centimeters dilated. I was in so much pain, and this lady's telling me that she has to get a doctor to have a look at my baby's heart rate. Okay, so you know something's a bit wrong. She goes off, she does that, and then she comes back and she says to me, we're gonna have to move you to the delivery room, and we're gonna have to break your waters instead of giving you anything else, and to see if that helps you dilate. So at this point I was in so much pain, I was like, okay, let's just go. So here there was different sets of midwives, and there was a doctor. So they put the monitor on my stomach, they kept checking the baby's heart rate. Midwife came and spoke to me. She was like, so do you know what's happening? I was like, no, what's going on, why did that lady bring me here? She was like, oh, that's not good, the other midwife should have explained everything to you. So she sat down, explained everything to me. What I just explained to you, she's the one that actually told me. So she's like, we're gonna break your waters to see if the contractions can come along, because baby's a little bit distressed. Before she does that, this kind midwife comes in with gas and air. They don't usually give you any pain relief when you're in labor and you're only 2 centimeters dilated. You'd be lucky if they give you paracetamol. She was like, do you want some? So I was like, yes, I'll have that. She's like, do you want to take some right now? I was like, no, I'll just wait until I'm in labor and I'll take it. The midwife was like, so we're just gonna take this, and she showed me this long ass stick, okay? She's like, we're gonna break your waters. I was like, hold on, give me 2 minutes. I took that gas and air and I was like trying to drain the life out of it. So I was like, let me just do this for a second, hold on. As soon as I took the first puff, right guys, I'm not joking, if you're ever in a delivery room with anybody, just try it. If the midwives look away, just try it. I'm not joking. I felt like I was in a different world. I was that out of it. I was like, yeah, okay, go on then. I was high off my head at this point, and then she broke my waters. I felt something. I felt like something got popped, like a balloon inside of me got popped, but I didn't feel any pain. I wasn't like nervous. Probably would have been if I didn't have the gas and air. So because I had this to take my mind off it and I wasn't really thinking about it, I could feel what's going on, but it wasn't painful. The water just came out. I was like, what is this? I was like, oh my god, why am I so wet? There's so much water, why is my feet wet? I was literally out of it, and they were all just laughing at me. Honestly, I was like, what did you do to me? Can you stop putting water all over my legs, please? She's like, no, we've just popped your waters, and she was like laughing the entire time. So at this point, another doctor comes in, introduces himself. I'm telling you, so many doctors kept coming in and out. So he comes and he tells me that the contractions I'm currently having are distressing the baby, and the heart rate keeps going up and going down, and breaking the waters didn't help, and they don't think that it's a good idea to give me the drip because that's probably going to aggravate the baby even more. So the best thing to do now is for them to put a metal thing inside of me, scrape the baby's head to get some blood sample of the baby, take it down to the labs to make sure that the baby's okay. I don't know what they wanted to do that for. Maybe to give me the drip then, if the baby's actually healthy and well. I was like, no. Straight away I was like, no, that's a bit dangerous, isn't it? And then he gave me statistics and he was like, we do this all the time, and is like 1 in, I don't know what statistic he gave me, but I was like, no. And he's like, it's either we do this or it's gonna have to be an emergency C-section. And I was like, oh my god. And I was just adamant. I was like, no, you're gonna hurt the baby. What if the baby gets even more distressed? And I had a word with my husband, and we were like, okay, we'll do that if there's nothing else. I really don't want a C-section. And then I changed my mind. I did a complete 360 real quick. I was like, no, we can't do that. He's like, you know what, let me have a word with another doctor. Let me have a word with another doctor and explain it to him and see what he advises. After 5 minutes, he came back and he was like, okay, so I spoke to the doctor. He doesn't think it is in the best interest of the baby or yourself to do that thing that he suggested, you know, scrape the baby's head. So he goes, we're gonna have to do an emergency C-section straight away. I was literally in hysterics at this point. I was like, is there nothing else you can do? As soon as I heard emergency C-section, I was like, is there something else you can do? I don't know. Is there another option? Can you get the baby out another way? I must have been so high at this point for me to say all these things. He was like, this is the best thing for you and the baby. After a lot of me going absolutely nuts, going, no, I can't have a C-section, I don't want to have a C-section, my husband was just trying to like keep me calm and tell me it's gonna be okay. And the midwives, bless them, after much reassurance and calming down, I was like, okay then. And I had to sign some forms. Next thing I remember is being wheeled off the bed into a bright white lit room, okay, with so many people in there. They literally moved me from one bed to another bed. I think they draw on your back or something to make sure that it goes in the right spot. When they gave me the epidural, which makes you numb from like your waist downwards, They gave me that and then they sprayed my leg. I was like, is it meant to feel like that? I must have annoyed that anaesthetist guy so much, but he was amazing. He was constantly reassuring me. I'm laying there, honestly, everything happened so quickly. I was like, where's my husband? They were like, oh, we're just getting him prepped for theatre and he's gonna be here in a second. The anaesthetist explains to me they're gonna put a sheet up so I don't see anything. They make the incision. Bless him, he kept exaggerating how tiny it was gonna be. And he was like, so in 10 minutes the baby comes out. Would you like to see your baby before they take the baby to go and do the checks and everything? I was like, yes please. Me and my husband both said yeah. So they'll pull that thing down a little bit so you can see your baby. You can't unfortunately hold it because there's an emergency thing going on. Then it takes about 20 minutes for you to get sewn back up, and then you get taken back to your ward. He goes, don't worry, it's a quicker procedure than having natural birth. I was like, yeah, okay. And earlier that day when I was walking around the hospital, I was trying to get things moving along. I was actually speaking to my cousin and I was saying to her how the worst thing that I could ever imagine is to have a C-section, and that I am flipping terrified of C-sections. I don't know how people can actually select to have the C-section from the beginning, because I didn't know it was a thing. I just heard so many horror stories that I was like dead against it. And what do you know, I had to have the C-section at the end of it. So they popped the sheet up. 10 minutes later the baby came out. All I heard was a scream, and honest to God, it's the weirdest feeling in the world having a C-section. Like, you can feel tugging and pulling, but you can't feel the pain. So the baby comes out screaming and crying. We get to see the baby. I was like, oh my god, she looks like me. It was just such a surreal moment. And then the midwives take the baby, and I was like saying to my husband, go with the baby, go see what they're doing, and just go be with the baby. The entire time I was like telling him, go be with the baby, go be with the baby. He's like, no, I'm gonna stay with you, she's gonna be fine, they're gonna look after her. She wasn't far along. I don't think she was in the same room. Sorry about that. I had to check on the baby real quick. 20 minutes later the whole thing finished. The anaesthetist guy, I really hope I'm saying that right, anaesthetist, he was like, that was quick, wasn't it? I told you that was going to be quick. I told you. I got to hold the baby. The midwife came with me. Honest to God, these midwives, absolutely brilliant. I'm telling you, they don't get enough credit. Anyway, so I got to hold the baby. It was just so surreal. So surreal. That's literally it. 10 minutes after I was in that room, I got to see my baby. And then another 20 minutes later, it was done and dusted. That's how quick it was. Now, having gone through the C-section, I don't know why I was so scared. I don't know why I was so worried. Probably because of the horror stories I heard. I was just scared of the recovery time. I was scared of the actual procedure, not being able to lift anything heavy for weeks and weeks and weeks. Yeah, it was all based on the horror stories I heard about C-sections. It was nothing like that. Now that I've been induced and I've had a natural delivery and an emergency C-section, comparing the both, I totally understand why people just go for the C-section. If you do have it like planned C-section, you don't have to go through the labor pains at all, or the contractions, and in 10 minutes you have your baby. Whereas having a natural birth, bloody hell, you could be pushing for an hour before you see your baby. If you do end up having to have a emergency C-section, or even if you get told that you need to schedule your C-section, don't be scared. Honest to God, it isn't as bad as people make it out to be. Now that I've had a C-section, I realized that each person's experience will be different. No one person will experience the exact same thing as another person, as well as the recovery process will be different based on different people. Now, I'm only 3 weeks in and I feel like I've 100% fully healed, even though I know that's not the case, that it will take a lot longer. They give it 6 weeks until you can drive, but again, it varies with different people. I feel absolutely fine. I've been cleaning my house. We no longer need a cleaner to come and clean the house once a week. I do it myself. I'm cooking, I'm walking. I go out and walk for like 2 hours, and it's only been 3 weeks, so my experience has been a positive one. And now that I've had both natural and a C-section, the recovery process feels the same to me. I remember exactly how it was when I had Malik, and it was just as painful as this. However, at the beginning it was really tough. Like, I had to have the midwives come and get the baby out for me to hold her and to change her nappy, only because it was so painful, like moving, because obviously you just had a major operation. So at the beginning it was really tough. I would say probably the first week was the hardest. After that it just got better and better. So don't be scared if you do have to have a C-section. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. That's all I'm gonna say. So that is my labor and delivery story for baby number 2, and the crazy havoc story that it was. If you made it to the end, well done you. And if you are due to have a baby soon, good luck. Don't have any expectations. My only tip would be to prepare for all outcomes. Although it's fine to have a birthing plan, just don't have your heart set on it and think this is exactly how it's gonna go. It's gonna be just how I planned it, because things change. I did not go into the hospital that day thinking that I'm gonna have an emergency C-section, you know. I thought I was gonna have a natural labor. I thought it was gonna go exactly the way it went with my first induction with my son, and that's the biggest mistake I made, having the expectation that it's gonna go a certain way. So do not expect or hype it up in your mind that this is how it's gonna go and this is how it must go. So just be open to all possibilities and prepare for anything to happen, and just keep calm. The baby has to come out one way or another. Don't worry about what people say. Don't worry about anything, because at the end of the day, whether you have a natural birth or you have a C-section, your body still has gone through so much. Your body still had a baby in it, and your body still went through a lot to get that baby out of it. That is basically my advice. I legit turned the camera off and then remembered that I didn't tell you guys her name, and I promised you lot that I will do a name reveal in my labor and delivery story. So quick drum roll please. If you guys already know her name, pause this video right here, just pause, okay, and comment down below what you think her name is. It begins with an L. I bet it won't be what you think. So her name is Liana, and I chose the name. It suits her so well. I had a list of names, okay? This is one of them, this top one. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna call her a bunch of names and see which one she looks like the most. So Liana is her name, and this is my labor and delivery story. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. See you in my next one.